Weather phenomena. Hi, this is Language Learning Report Card Podcast. I'm Vicki Kelty. I teach English online, focusing on speaking. And today, like I said, we're talking about weather phenomena. So let's dive right in and get freaky with that weather. Okay, not really. What I mean is that we will be touching on a lot of different weather related topics today. And remember that I am not a scientist, nor do I have experience forecasting the weather. So this is all just my lived experience. So take it with a grain of salt, okay? So let's see. Growing up in Nebraska, sometimes we would have droughts because Nebraska has a lot of farmland. And so hot summers with just the sun beating down, heat waves, those things without rain are not fabulous for farmland. And although I was never a farmer, that's just my take on the science behind why droughts happen. You can research the exact science behind it. But the interesting thing for me was that we did this sort of water rationing. And so in Lincoln, where I grew up, they would have sometimes, if there were droughts or there was a potential drought, they would have us be more cautious with our water use. So when it was time to water your lawn, you would pay attention to what day of the week it was. And if you had an odd address, you would water on certain days as versus if you had an even number address. So like if your address ended in a 2, then you were an even number. If your address ended in a 1, you were an odd number, right? Get the idea? So then you would only water in theory on the days that were assigned to you. So like Tuesday, Thursday for odd numbers, and Monday, Wednesday for even numbers, etc. And what about you? Where you're at? What is the sun beating down on your area? Let me know. Now, rain, mostly the things that I've been around or experienced are flooding. I had one of my apartments flood once due to rain here in Spain, and it was quite the like thankfully it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was just a shock more than anything else. So the landlady came over with some of her family and with little plastic food containers, we tried to get the water out of the apartment little by little once the rain had subsided. Now, people who have dealt with much, much more serious and dangerous levels of flooding are like the torrential rain that caused flooding just a couple years ago here in Spain. In Valencia, it was all over the news, in other parts of Spain as well. I was lucky that my specific area where I live wasn't affected by it, but it was probably something that you saw on the news. And we've also had that situation happen in Nebraska before. We had a really big incident in 2019 because of the snow melting just too quickly. And so it caused flooding. And it wasn't expected and wasn't, but what flooding is, right? So, um, yeah, what's the rain getting up to where you are? I hope it is behaving itself. Next incident on our list is back in back in the day. I was starting high school and we had a snowstorm, not a blizzard, but it was so bad that we were out of school for like a week because of it. Like power lines were knocked down and it caused lots of difficulties for people. And we were some of us, I mean, like I specifically, I guess I shouldn't say we, I don't know how other people were feeling or dealing with it, but me personally, I remember a lot of fun being had because of it, like building forts and snow fights and just not having to go to school. Woohoo! And yeah, so they the upside of these kinds of snowy disasters are the fun that you get to have with the snow. That is like the only upside, and probably the upside that a child would find in those situations. Because I know when we had this snowstorm, um, Filomena, back in what was it, 2021? I mentioned it in another episode. And with that, it was like really icy in town here in Spain. And we are just not really prepared for snow in this area because it's not something we expect to have. And I think that that was a huge difference between the snow in Nebraska, which we anticipate annually, though not as early as we had it that year when I was in high school. But here in Spain, we just don't expect it in my area in the quantities that we had it. So it did cause a lot of problems. And I remember trying to get our van out of the garage, and it was just like on its last leg. The van said, "I'm sorry, I can't deal with this weather." And you know what? Me too, buddy. Me too. But, or rather, me neither. Me neither, buddy. Me neither. And one of the things that we didn't realize was going to be an issue was our plants on the balcony. And so we did lose some cactus and what did we have? Cactus. We had a cactus and some aloe vera plants that were on the balcony that didn't make it through Filomena. So I did mention that I've never been in any blizzards, but I should say that I have been around blizzards, but only the Dairy Queen type. If you haven't tried them, you definitely should. Very yummy. I like the Butterfinger ones or Snickers, or really, I'm not that picky. If it has some chocolate, I'm probably going to like it. Um, Blowing right on over to wind issues, we have had some horrible wind crap going around this year. And we had these gusts of wind that took down trees. I went on a walk. I laugh because it was a lower speed of wind at the time when I left for my walk. It was like, I don't know, 60 miles an hour. And then by the time I got home, it had gone up to 23 miles an hour and I was getting blown down. So I said, back home. And then my husband sent me pictures of trees that had been knocked down. And I counted myself lucky for the path that I had taken and the fact that I missed all of the trees being blown around. So, just a reminder to stay safe in those different situations, of course. And I know that different areas in Spain had gale force winds, so we were actually on the like lower end of things once again, which we will not complain about. There were other times that the wind knocked tiles off, or not tiles. What do you call those things? Shingles from the roofs that have come flying off. And as someone who goes for walks regularly, that is something that I do get quite concerned about, hearing that the wind was causing all of this damage around town, and just being super grateful that I and other people were not around when those moments of um, when those dangerous moments occurred. And frankly, I'm just like so sick of the wind problems. I don't know what the benefits are to wind. Maybe you can let me in on that secret. But the um, point of view I have is I'm just sick of it. But you tell me, what's your take on wind? Now, as far as cloudy weather causing issues, yeah, you really got me on that one. I will leave this to your wisdom and knowledge, and you can tell me. Maybe seasonal affective disorder is something that gets affected by cloudy weather. I mean, eh, if there's not a lot of sun and it's really gray outside, and like that can be really depressing. So um I can see sad being activated potentially. I don't know. I put this in your hands. You are the boss of the cloudy topic. Let me know what is up with clouds. And lastly, drum roll, is the storm events. Now, some people are storm chasers. I had like one moment of storm chasing in my life, and then that was about it, because I just get really freaked out by them. And probably having some respect for nature is not a bad idea. Um, Obviously, I don't do a very good job of that when it comes to wind, but I haven't had too many bad storm incidents. I have gone for a couple of walks in town when there's been lightning, which maybe wasn't the best idea, but we'll try and be on the safer side. Okay. And I did try to use what I had learned as a child, that when you hear the thunder, you wait to see. Oh, wait, no, the opposite. When you hear the lightning, no, sorry, you don't hear lightning. When you see a flash of lightning and then you hear the thunder, you count between the lightning and the thunder how many seconds passed. And that is supposed to let you know how many miles away the storm is. And so that's what I would try and do during my walks here in town, because I was like, okay, well, so long as it's not super close, then I can finish my walk. Of course, I didn't remember like what the math was. So I just counted each second as the distance. So I said, like, if it was 3 seconds between the lightning and the thunder, then I said it was 3 miles away. But I guess it's actually supposed to be 5 seconds equals 1 mile. So, math causing me problems again, you guys. Anywho, the storms that we had in Nebraska in the summers, like early summer, sometimes led to tornadoes because they were like prime tornado weather. I mean, these were some pretty serious storms we're talking about. I mean, duh. If they're causing twisters to come around town, then they must be pretty intense, right? I never saw a tornado in person, which I am completely happy about. I would prefer not to see a tornado, because if you're up close and personal with one, I don't think that's uh, probably very safe. Just guessing. But I have seen the aftermath of them, and man, do they destroy stuff. I mean, a lot of the things we talked about today are pretty destructive. So, weather, man, yeah, it's a beast. Okay, it's your turn. What can you tell me about different weather phenomena you have experienced or heard about? Before we go, make sure to do your self evaluation. How easy can you talk about weather phenomena? Satisfactory or development needed? Use that info to decide whether to listen to this episode again or go listen to another episode. Remember, you can find more listening practice at vickykelty.com. That's all from me. Hope the weather treats you super kindly, is your BFF this week, this year, and especially today. Bye bye now.